Moving on, justice and the rights of women in India. India's Supreme Court has directed the state of West Bengal to compensate a tribal woman who was gang raped on the orders of a village tribal council. VOA's Arup Pandey and I talked about the case, but first, here's a clip from her report.
Life in this quiet village in the Birbhum district of West Bengal state was shaken in late January after what is said to have taken place in this hut. A 20-year-old member of the Santhal tribe said she was raped by neighbors in the Subalpur village for having a relationship with a man from a different community.
When her fellow villagers learned of this, they had a council meeting, and in that meeting, apparently it was decided that her punishment should be rape because her family could not pay a fine of $400. This is what really got people talking as to how this could happen. And I think about 13 people have been arrested in connection with this. Many of them, she said, were her neighbors, young teenage boys, or some men who were as old as her father. So I think that's what really was shocking to many. This community was particularly taken aback by this because they're claiming that the people who ordered this punishment, this gang rape, were not part of our community.
Santhal villagers were there as bystanders and had no role in the trial. The political leaders, just to save themselves from trouble, are now putting the whole blame on the Santhals.
Demonstrators have called for India's Central Bureau of Investigation to intervene to determine who exactly was involved in ordering the gang rape of the young tribal woman. She was released from the hospital in February and is not expected to return to her village.
The lady, she's out of the hospital. What's the status on the perpetrators?
The Santhals have had major protests. They're saying, look, we're not involved. Don't try to ban tribal councils. Don't try to ban our culture and our tradition, our practice. So they've asked the Central Bureau of Investigation to investigate who's really behind this attack. One of the men who allegedly took part in the gang rape was someone who was connected to a political party in West Bengal. So they're hoping that the real answers of what has happened or not happened will come out of this. So that's kind of where it is right now.
You spent the last year, the entire year in India covering issues like these. What would you say about issues of sexual assault? I mean, have you seen a rise in these cases, or is it like there's more awareness now?
Well, definitely more awareness. The case that obviously made major headlines around the world was in December 2012, when a young woman who apparently got a ride aboard a private bus with her male friend was gang raped, brutally gang raped, and she died 2 weeks later in a Singapore hospital of massive internal injuries. And this incident, in the heart of New Delhi, galvanized the Indian population. Thousands of people took to the streets in protest. And the funny thing is, the protests didn't die down. What I saw in my year there, other more high-profile cases of like a 5-year-old being raped by a man or held captive, I would see protests over the weekend. I'd drive around and you'd see protests outside the hospital, outside the police station. There were a number of protests against police saying, look, you're not doing enough to protect women and young girls in this country and in this city. So I think what came out of that huge and tragic event in December of 2012 is a greater awareness, much greater media attention and media coverage. Now, for example, this case, I'm not saying it may not have made headlines, but to the effect that it did in terms of a tribal council allegedly ordering this rape, it made worldwide headlines.
And lastly, is there a place where if a woman is facing issues like that, is there a place where she can go and be helped?
Yeah, there are many groups, and there are many groups that are now even coming up. Even a few years ago, there were like call centers and hotlines that were developed for women to call, and the government has put out a number where, if you see something or experience something, you can call this number. So there are resources, and there are many groups, nonprofit groups, who are also helping women, with any issue that they face like this.
And that was VOA's Arup Pandey. Thank you so much for that. India's Supreme Court has called this tribal court-ordered rape the epitome of aggression against a woman and says it could have been prevented.
And we do want to mention that Aru's report was shot by photographer Aziz Rehman in West Bengal, thanks to Aziz.